Hello, this is the underrated opinion here with the latest news in, how do we put this? So I think everyone's aware of at least I hope everyone at this point is aware of what happened last year in Charlottesville. Yeah, you had, what did you have there? You had about 1,000 people, which to be fair, initially they were there in Charlottesville to protest, they wanted to keep the Confederate statue that's there. But then you had about, 200 or so dumbasses with tiki torches going down, talking about the white is right, rise of the alt-right, blah, blah, blah. And it just became a huge fucking disaster from that point on. You sadly had one person lose their life in Charlottesville. But then you also had, just all these Antifa morons down there, which we're gonna touch on them. We're gonna touch on both groups. But regardless, there was, if you can believe it, there was a KKK rally in D.C. this past weekend. And there were fewer than 100, which in the grand scheme of things is a speck of dust, if we're being completely honest. The fact that if you go way back, I think back to 1950, there were still almost 3 million KKK members in America. Now, I think nationwide there's maybe 500 of them. So we've effectively killed off the KKK. But that's not good enough for some people, of course. And look, let me just make one thing clear right now. Let me set the record straight. I'm a minority in America, and I'm not afraid of the KKK. Are you kidding me? Trust me, my least fear is walking down the street and being afraid that some white supremacist is going to come kill me. Because I'm not an Aryan Brotherhood race or whatever bullshit they try to spew. I don't buy into that. And look, tragically, I did know someone who was the victim of a hate crime. That person is in jail, probably forever. So, I think the justice system, has its problems, all right? But when it comes to white supremacy, we've made it pretty clear that America doesn't stand for that shit. But some people, they just got it wrong. I don't know. My attitude with these whole KKK people is, if you ignore them, they'll go away. Now, if you look at the media, both social media and legacy media, they paint this picture of the KKK's on its rise, America's full of all these alt-right supremacists. Your neighbor could be a KKK member. Your neighbor could be a white supremacist. Your boss could be a white supremacist. The guy at the corner store, he might be a white supremacist. Look, it's just not true. And I think the reason you see more vocalized racist, among young people, it's in part because of just the arrogance and just this negative attitude a lot of people have towards white people. Look, not all white people are bad. Anyone who thinks that is, well, oh yeah, guess what? You're racist if you think all white people are bad. I don't get this whole, reverse racism attitude. Then you have some assholes who think, minorities can't be racist, which is a complete lie. It's just a complete lie. Look, like I said, we've effectively killed the KKK, but some people are just out there, spurring this nonsense that, the KKK, this is white supremacy. It's going to take over America. No, it's not. Just ignore these morons. Because in reality, someone who's a white supremacist, I don't care about their opinion because they're on a different stratosphere than I am. We're never going to have the same agreement, so I just don't care about them. But of course, this attitude isn't good enough for Antifa, which Antifa, I believe, stands for Anti-Fascist Group of America. I probably got that wrong. I really don't care if I got that right or not, to be honest with you. Because in my mind, they're no better than the KKK. Keep in mind, in D.C., there were, counter-protesters outnumbered KKK by at least 10 to 1. Now, not all of the counter-protesters were Antifa. But that right there should tell you just how relevant the KKK is in America. Everyone hates them, all right? Unfortunately, not everyone hates Antifa because I think the legacy media has done a horrible job of covering Antifa. And if you want proof, the Toronto Sun is reporting that Antifa went after a journalist and hardly any mainstream media is speaking out about it. That's right, a journalist, because, that damn journalist, she must be a white supremacist. That Toronto journalist, she's evil. We gotta attack her. I'm sorry, but this is nonsense. And this is in response to a group known as the Worldwide Coalition Against Islam. Somehow I'm not buying that title, by the way. That title is worldwide. Like, we're supposed to believe this group's worldwide. I'm sure it's just a few 50 people in their basements, came up with this idea. They were supposed to meet in Toronto, but guess what? They were a no-show. Big surprise. Because they're all talk and no bark. Or, they're afraid to show their faces. Which, honestly, they should be, considering those tiki torch-waving morons from last year. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them got kicked out of school. I mean, it's understandable why they should be a no-show. But guess who was there? Antifa. Antifa was in Toronto. Where do we begin with this? I mean, the fact is people are protesting where there's nothing to protest. You know what I mean? And I shouldn't even... These Antifa people don't deserve the right to be called protesters. Because just going over a little bit of what they did. Just to go over what they did in Charlottesville, because, of course, they're afraid that those tiki-torchy morons were going to make a comeback to Charlottesville, which... I mean, if they did, it'd be dumbasses. But, I mean, they're dumbasses anyway, so who would be surprised? Antifa was present once again in Charlottesville. This time they're attacking cameramen, and they're attacking police officers. So let's see. You have one group. Both groups are morons, obviously. But you have one group which is effectively a no-show. Didn't do anything because they can't do anything. And you have another group which was attacking innocent civilians and attacking police officers. I mean, when are we going to accept the fact that this Antifa group is bad news, all right? And I think they're currently a bigger problem than the KKK. Reason being, everyone knows to look out for the KKK. Everyone knows the KKK's nonsense, but Antifa, thanks to the glorious mainstream media, and I got to give the Toronto Sun credit for actually, reporting on this. I'm not sure who actually caught the story initially, but the Toronto Sun, they get their credit too. And here's the thing: this current, these Antifa, they're as obsessed with race as the KKK is. I have no desire to live in a country that all we see is race. That's nonsense. We strive for better than that. America isn't only about race. Race isn't entirely what defines me. Is it part of who I am? Absolutely. But it's not the only thing that defines me. And if you think your race is the only thing that defines you, well, you must not have a lot going for you, to be perfectly honest. Like I said, just these KKK groups, just ignore them. Ignore these idiotic white supremacists. Don't post racist stuff against whites on Twitter. And I truly believe this shit will play itself out, and eventually it will just go away. And we'll forget this ever happened. And hopefully Antifa goes away. Hopefully... I mean, if these Antifa people start hurting people, or continue to hurt people, I should say, then I definitely think the cops need to arrest them promptly. And, man, I just hope Antifa goes away, because I think this Antifa group started because of a few, vocal minority white supremacists who came out of the closet recently. And I do mean a few, because there are, maybe a couple dozen of them. But then you just have thousands of Antifa groups that just use this as an excuse to cause violence. All right, well, that's all I have for you today. If you like the content you see here, be sure to subscribe. And we'll be back soon with more content on The Underrated Opinion.